What's up, everyone? Good morning. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is Monday, August the 3rd. It is a brand new trading month, which is super exciting. Coming into this week, we do have some red folder news to talk about. We have earnings to keep in mind as well. We have a couple big earnings to report that are reporting, coming up. Last week, we had a decent amount. We had FOMC, of course, last Wednesday. We had a bunch of earnings with Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Apple last week. This week, we have AMD and a couple other big names we'll talk about here in a second. But yeah, with that being said, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. What's up, Calvin, J-Tan, Maria, Cody? Good morning, Knight, B Roots, Deuce, P1. Good morning, Gerald, Juan. What's up, everyone? Ryan, Layman, Andy, Hero. What's up, Cinna, Wallace, Andrea, and what's up, PA, Bobby, Robert, Jose. What's up, Will, King? Yeah, hope you guys are doing well. You guys might not see the difference, but I am back currently at my home office, which is super exciting. Glad to be back. But yeah, with that being said, let me pull up the economic calendar and we will get started here. So first things first, let's take a look at the economic calendar coming into this week. Some of the things that we have: ISM manufacturing, that is going to be at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here today. We do have some orange folder news events. That's going to be the JOLTS opening tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Wednesday, we have ADP non-farm enrollment, along with the ISM services. Thursday, unemployment claims, and then Friday we have the average hourly earnings month over month, along with the non-farm unemployment change and the unemployment rate, of course. That's going to be at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is what we have, at least for the economic calendar. The really main things to keep an eye out for is just going to be the ISM this morning, along with the non-farm enrollment change and the unemployment rate on Friday. The rest of the news events are more so kind of orange folder news, not even expecting the ISM and the unemployment rate to affect the market as much. The main thing, of course, this week is going to be the earnings calendar. Let's take a look at this, at least for today. What are some notable names that are reporting coming to this week? Number one, Palantir. This is going to be today after close. Really big to keep an eye out for. On Tuesday, what do we have? We have like McDonald's in the morning. We have AMD. That's going to be one of the main semiconductors that are reporting on Tuesday, at least for this earnings season to kick off some of the semis. SpaceX, one of the first times it's reporting earnings as well. Should be, it's going to be very important. We'll see what kind of guidance we have for SpaceX as well, but that's going to be on Tuesday after close. Those are really some of the notable ones, at least on Tuesday. What are we looking for on Wednesday? Shopify in the morning. We also have Uber as well. And then as you can see, some of the big semiconductors, more in specific, some memory names. SNDK, SanDisk, implied volatility is going to be 20%, which is absolutely crazy. So the implied move is negative plus 19%. So we're expecting a big move on some of these memory names. SNDK, we have WDC, Western Digital, another big memory name. APP, App 11, that's something to keep an eye out for as well. And then on Thursday, there's not that much on Thursday. I have a couple one, QBTS, and then we have a couple other ones to keep an eye out for. AAIO, along with Airbnb, TTD. There's a couple other ones to keep an eye out for, RGTI, but the main ones this week is going to be on Tuesday and, of course, Wednesday as well, with AMD, along with some of the memories that we have. And then on Friday, OKLO, you have a couple other ones to keep an eye out for. So with that being said, This is the outlook for some of the earnings, at least this week, along with the red folder news. Earlier in this week is going to be fairly important, with, of course, what we had last week as well with the FOMC. And there's still a lot of names to keep an eye out for, especially after earnings as well. A lot of these names will have really solid moves after earnings, which we'll touch up on right here. So, that being said, we'll head on to some charts here now. We'll head on to the ES and Q. We'll head on to the SPY Qs, SMH, and then we'll make our way down into some of the tech names that we do have. All right. That being said, I'm going to grab some water here. If you guys do have any charts, of course, you guys can drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that, of course, is in the description below here as well. Okay, first things first, let's take a look at the SPY chart. We'll take a look at a lot of these names on the weekly, and then we'll make our way down into, of course, the lower time frame. So let's take a look at the SPY. Key technical levels and what we have marked out. Of course, the weekly time frame is bullish. We are above this previous all-time highs. Right now, you can see for the SPY, more so in specific, we are consolidating inside of this range. You can see buyers are stepping in above our 730. This is our very key technical level, or sorry, very key level of support here. Our double bottom on the daily time frame. You can see buyers end up stepping in. Last week's weekly candle ended up closing fairly bullish, opened up inside the range, ended up pushing lower, only to end up closing at the top of the range and end up having a decent close, right? Basically in between the middle of the range, but the candle close. And of course, if we look at the bar by bar on the weekly time frame, we are now right at our previous days, or sorry, previous week's highs. So for the SPY chart, this one, of course, is leading the markets higher. And then we have the QQQ, and of course, then we have the SMH. So right now, SPY is leading, Qs is lagging behind, and then the SMH is also lagging behind as well. But on Wednesday, we did have a bounce in the markets with FOMC. And of course, the next day prior, we had some other news with, of course, the Situational Awareness Fund. And I can see so far, we're seeing a little bit of buyers step in right off our key technical levels. So for the SPY, our 730 here is key. This is the area that we originally bounced from. You can see another bounce on, another bounce last week here as well. And now we're back above our key technical levels. So for the SPY, we're just seeing this nice kind of double bottom, or if you consider this kind of like a triple bottom. And you can see just a bounce off a key technical level support. And now we're moving back towards the upside. What would we like to see here on the SPY moving forward? Really, number one, the flip back above the EMAs, which we're currently doing. And now we're also trying to break structure as well here on the daily. Really above our 745 hold. Now we want to see a move back up in towards that 755 here on the higher time frames. If I go back onto the lower time frames here and I put the drawings back on, some of the key technical levels that I have coming into this week here on SPY, it's going to be that 742 along with our 748. As you can see, this is the top of the range on the hourly time frame. You can see on Friday, we broke above, retest for continuation towards the upside. A little bit of rejection here off that 748. Now what I like to see is the hold above our 748 for continuation towards the upside. So this is going to be the key technical level moving forward. If you can hold above that 748, we can see a move up into that 750 and above. If we reject, get underneath that 748 right off the bat, then we can see this flip down in towards that 742. So coming into market open here today, the key technical levels that we have marked out is simply just going to be that previous day highs. Hold above that previous day highs, continuation towards the upside. Underneath that previous day highs, we can see a flip down in towards our previous day close and potentially our key levels from Friday, which will be down in towards that 742. So that's what I have for the for the SPY chart coming into market open. If we're looking at the ES, let's go on to the daily time frame. Key technical levels that we have marked out on the daily is just this key level 7,300 daily double bottom here, and you can see nice buyers stepped in. Pretty strong reversal right off the lows here on the ES. Now the key technical levels that we have marked out is going to be the 7,500. Other levels that we have marked out here as well on the hourly is our 75.40. So coming into market open here, 75.40 for a reversal back up in towards that 7,500. As you can see, we do have a very small gap here on the higher time frame. So coming into today, if we can maintain above this level, continuation towards the upside here is in play. If we get back underneath, we do have this gap fill that we've created here over the weekend that we could look to fill back towards the downside. So this is going to be key coming to market open. Just keep an eye out on that previous day highs here for the ES. Let's take a look at the QQQ chart here now. As you can see, the Qs chart is showing something a little bit different. So let's start off on the weekly time frame for the Qs. As you can see for the Qs, we ended up having a little bit of a bigger pullback on the Qs compared to the SPY. You can see the SPY ended up holding our key technical levels of support. The Qs ended up having a little bit of a deeper retracement. We got underneath our 700 key psych level as well. If we're looking at this on a week by week basis, you can see that last week's candle was fairly bullish. As you can see, we end up having a lower wick, close back inside of its previous week's range after indicating that nice buyers are stepping in. And this is after having a really strong push towards the upside. So for the Qs, right, we end up taking out this key technical low, right? Buyers stepped in, end up closing back inside of its range. Now let's see if we can get that continuation back towards the upside. If we can close back above its previous week high, then we can see this reversal here in the market. For the daily chart, as you can see, we're right into a key technical level coming to this week. If we were to just draw this right here, which is our 700, you can see bounce here, another bounce off this general area. And now the Qs is coming back at a very key technical level of support slash now turning into resistance, which is this 688. Moving forward here on the daily time frame, if we do reject off this area, create a lower high, we very much well can see another push right back towards the downside. If we can reclaim back above this 700 and see this flip here on the daily, then we can see this break of see this market structure shift and a reversal back towards the upside. If we go into the hourly time frame, what are the key levels that I have coming into this week for the QQQ? Some of the key levels that I have marked out is going to be this 692 along with this 680. If I want to see a reversal here in the markets above that 692 hold for a continuation back towards the upside, another possible scenario is going to be the bounce play here off our 680 for a continued push higher. Where would I be a little bit more concerned about some upside here and for a bounce play? If we do get underneath that 680, then we can definitely see a push lower underneath our previous day lows, underneath our FOMC highs for this mean reversion towards the downside. Currently for the Qs, as I mentioned, right underneath our previous day lows, I'm going to be a lot more cautious here in the markets. We could also come up into that previous day highs, reject as well. And then for long positions, as I mentioned, above our previous day highs hold, we can see this reversal back towards the upside. Let's take a look at the NQ here on the weekly time frame. We did come back for a retest of our previous all-time highs. This is with the contracts non-adjusted. So we did come back for the retest of this previous all-time highs key area. This is our key technical level of resistance that turned into support. And now you can see nice buyers that stepped in last week right off that 27,000 here on the NQ. So you can see buyers stepped in nicely right off that previous all-time highs. Now we are right back into a key technical area. If we were to just draw this out, this is our previous level of support. Now that we could reject off this area, as I mentioned, and push right back towards the downside. If we were to just draw at this level above it, we can see this reversal back above. That would be the reclaim setup above this 28,800. If we reject, then a lower high would be built for a move right back towards the downside. So this is going to be key moving forward here on the NQ. With that being said, now let's head on to the SMH. You can see some of the semiconductors have been a little bit more bearish as of recent. We did have a nice bounce on Wednesday, but on Friday we had this kind of rejection right into a key technical area. Lower highs are still being built. The market structure is, of course, still leaning more towards the downside. If we're looking at this on the hourly time frame here on the SMH, what are some of the levels that we have marked out today? In this case, what we have here is our 560. Other levels that we have marked out is our 536. If we reject underneath our previous day lows, hold underneath this level, we can see continuation towards the downside underneath that previous day lows for move back down in towards our 724 and below. If we do want to see some upside here on the SMH, we would need it above our previous day lows, reclaim back above this level for a continued push back towards the upside. So this is what I have for the semis coming into market open here. The semiconductors are now in a decent retracement. If we were to draw out a Fibonacci, we are right into a key technical level, right? This is our 50% retracement to our 61.8. That's why you see we had a nice initial bounce last week. Moving forward, we just like to see it hold this 50% to the 61.8 for this move back towards the upside. Whenever you have a very strong trend and we start pulling back, a good dip area is going to be that 50% retracement along with that 61.8. Okay, with that being said, let's head on to some tech names that we do have here now as well. If you guys do have any charts or any tickers you'd like me to go over, you guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. Let's see if we can get to 200 likes. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below here as well. If we're taking a look at DRAM, this is the memory ETF. Similar thesis after this nice rally or this nice IPO towards the upside. We're now having a pretty decent retracement. We did end up rejecting right off the key levels that we're supposed to reclaim back above. This is the level that we originally bounced from. You can see another bounce. Tried reclaiming back above, was unable to, and now you can see we're holding underneath this 56. On Friday, we end up rejecting off this level once again. Now you can see we're pushing right back towards the downside. For upside movement moving forward, we need it back above our 56 for any sort of continuation higher. If we reject, which we're currently doing, we can see a move down in towards our 44, which is our key technical level support here now on DRAM. All right, let me grab some water here and then we'll head on to some tech names coming into market open. Alrighty, let's talk about some tech names here now, starting off with Tesla, and then we'll make our way down here now as well. So Tesla, first name, as you can see, Tesla on the weekly time frame closing underneath, or the prior week closed underneath, of course, with earnings. If we're talking about last week's candle, fairly small body candle. The range of the candle in itself was fairly small as well compared to, of course, its previous week's range. This one is back down into its level of support that we had from last June and July of 2025. So you can see a little bit more consolidation. If you go into the daily time frame here on Tesla, moving forward, we're simply just going to mark out that opening candle, which in this case can be that earnings candle. If we maintain underneath that earnings low, we're going to see this continue push back down in towards our last week's lows and below. If we can reclaim back above this earnings candle low, potentially you can see a move back up in towards that 340. So the main level moving forward and what we have marked out is just going to be that 316. That also happens to be that previous day highs here as well. So if I was to just zoom out, you can see level of support, turn into resistance. On Friday, came back up, turned into resistance again. And I can see we're right back into this 316. So on the hourly time frame, I think we can see this a little bit better here. We're just going to mark out that 316. Maintain underneath that 316, continuation towards the downside is in play. You can see on Friday, we end up rejecting, came back down, buyer stepped in, and then we end up closing fairly neutral. So rejection of this 316, we're still bearish, and we're going to be looking for continuation. If we can get above that 316 hold, then we can see a potential move up in towards that 326, which will be that earnings high. So keep an eye out on that previous day highs coming to market open here for Tesla. 316 is going to be key. As for AMD, let's take a look at this one here on the higher time frames. As for AMD, we did recently bounce right off a key technical level support 440, and now you can see we're right back in between its range that we have here on the daily. On Friday, we end up breaking back inside this range only to have a weak candle closure, and now we're also gapping down here as well. So far here on AMD, you can see we are breaking underneath its previous week's range. This is a first sign of weakness. Once we ended up having a candle close last week, you can see we did have a lower wick that was being put in, but the previous candle ended up closing underneath, or sorry, last week's candle ended up closing below its week prior's candle. And now you can see this week so far, we're showing a little bit of weakness coming into the pre-market. So for AMD, this one, of course, does have earnings as well. That's going to be the most important. That's going to be on Tuesday. And then if we go back onto the hourly time frame, what are some of the key levels that we have marked out coming to today? What we have is going to be that 480 along with that 500. So for AMD, we end up pushing up on Friday, rejecting off that 510, pushing back towards the downside. And then today we're a little bit weaker here in the pre-market, a rejection off this 480, continuation down in towards that 440 here is in play for some downside today. If we can reclaim back above our previous day lows, then we can see this flip up in towards that 510 here on the higher time frame. So for AMD, the main thing, of course, is going to be earnings this week. Not too much to talk about before earnings, more so of an after earnings move. And then we'll take a look at this a little bit more in depth. Let's take a look at NVIDIA here. This one's just coming back into that previous all-time highs. This is our exact level, 190. You can see buyers are stepping in off this general area, and we're kind of just consolidating in between that 210 along with this 190. Similar thing it did last year, just a lot more consolidation, broke above, and now we're just consolidating once again. If we can break above 210, we can see this next leg towards the upside. If we come back down and towards the low of the range, what we want to see is a reclaim, or sorry, buyers to step in and a push back towards the upside. If you go into the daily time frame, the key technical levels that we have marked out is our 192, and then other levels that we have marked out is our 196. Hourly time frame here on NVIDIA, key technical levels that we have marked out on the hourly time frame is going to be this 198. This is the area that we tried breaking back above on Friday. Now you can see we're going to come back down for the retest. Let's see if buyers can step in, offer 198 for a reversal back towards the upside. Above our previous day highs here is in play for a room back up and towards 202 and above. If we reject and get underneath this 198, then we can see a push right back down in towards that 194 and below, which would be that 190 here on the higher time frames. Let's take a look at Apple. Of course, this did have earnings last week, and we ended up gapping down here. For Apple, this one is still bullish on the weekly time frame. If we go onto the weekly chart, the structure on the weekly time frame is being maintained. Lower highs are being built, or sorry, higher lows are being built on the weekly. Now what we like to see is really a mean reversion back towards the upside. If we go onto the daily chart, the key technical levels that we have moving forward is going to be this 315. Back above that 315, reversal back up and towards that earnings low is in play. The only way I'm leaning a slightly bearish on Apple is if we reject off this 315 and then push back down in towards this earnings low, and we can get underneath this earnings low, and then we could definitely see a lot more of a push towards the downside if we got underneath our 300 key psych. But moving forward here on Apple, key technical levels that we have marked out, we can also mark out that previous day highs here as well. So key levels that we have, On Apple is going to be that 315 as I mentioned. Other levels that we have 310, and then we have our 300. For Apple today, we like to see it maintain above that 310 previous day highs for a push towards the upside. If we reject, get underneath that 310, then we can definitely see a mean reversion back down in towards that 302 here on Apple. As for Google, Google is bouncing off our key lows on the weekly time frame. We're reclaiming back above this previous all-time highs with a nice strong candle close. Higher lows were being built as well. And now we're just looking for this reclaim for a push back towards the highs. If you look at this on the daily chart on Google, we had earnings as well. So earnings gap down here on Google, but we're able to reclaim on Friday. And I can see how bullish of a move we're having on Google after earnings. This was 2 weeks ago. So for Google, now we're reclaiming back above our previous day highs hold for a move back towards the upside. If you go on to the 15-minute time frame, key levels that we have marked out, previous day highs. Currently, Google is fairly bullish here in the pre-market. What I like to see here today is maintain above our previous day highs for continuation, above our previous day highs here as well. Sorry, pre-market highs for room up and towards 370 here today on Google. As for Microsoft, the key levels that we have marked out, as you can see, Microsoft is fairly bullish as of recent. If you go on to the weekly time frame, you can see we basically bounced right off our key technical level support. Of course, we did have earnings last week, which pushed this higher. Now our levels is just going to be this right here. The break it back above that 460 is going to push this all the way back up in towards 500 and potentially our all-time highs here on Microsoft. On the daily time frame, this is the exact area we rejected from last time. We do have this daily gap fill back towards the highs as well. If we go back onto the hourly time frame, the key levels that we have marked out on Microsoft coming into this week is going to be that 460, maintain above that 460, hold. We can see that continuation back up and towards that 480 and above. So let's keep an eye out on Microsoft above our previous day highs. As for Meta, Meta is actually in a really good spot here as well. This is our daily double bottom. Keep an eye on a Meta bounce off our 525 for this reversal back towards the upside. We've bounced here multiple times. We bounced here last year as well, back in May. Let's see if we can get this bounce for a mean reversion back towards the upside. We do have this earnings gap fill, something similar to kind of like Microsoft, the bounce off our key technical level support for a move back towards the upside. Levels that we have marked out on Meta moving forward is going to be that 580. Reclaim back above. We can see this mean reversion back towards the upside. Of course, a rejection off this 580. We could see this flip and a move back down in towards that 550 and below. All right, for Amazon, this one is bouncing right off a key technical level here as well with, of course, earnings. We are back at our all-time highs here on Amazon. You can see, especially the SPY is a little bit more bullish here in the pre-market compared to the Qs and the rest of the tech names. But as for Amazon, the key levels that I have marked out is going to be that previous all-time highs, which we're currently hitting here in the pre-market. Moving forward, we like to see it above our all-time highs for continuation. If we reject, you could see a little bit more consolidation and a potential pullback here on Amazon. So let's keep an eye out on the hourly time frame. Other levels that we have moving forward is going to be above our 278 for continuation, or now the bounce off our previous day highs for room back towards the upside here as well. Netflix, this one is bouncing right off the lows. Let's see if we can reclaim back above our 75 for any sort of move back towards the upside. And then, of course, for SpaceX, this one's continuing to show weakness here in the pre-market. This one does have earnings on Tuesday, so that is something to keep in mind. Let's keep an eye out on that previous day lows, at least coming into today, and then we'll wait for earnings that we have on Tuesday after close. So with that being said, that was majority of the tech names that we have. We'll head on to a couple other names here now as well for the next 5 to 10 minutes. So if you guys do have any charts or any tickers, you guys can now drop them in the chat. I'll go over some for the next 5 to 10 minutes. If you guys are enjoying this so far, appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below here as well. Could go either way. Necessary for valid objection reasons. Agree on red day ahead. What I heard from Weekend Citadel bought someone margin called. Yeah, that was last week. That was on Wednesday of last week. That was the Situal Awareness Fund. That was kind of the big major news event that we had, plus the FOMC that we had last week as well. Okay, let's take a look at a couple names here. Palantir, we do have earnings coming up after close. So coming into today here, Palantir is gapping up. We are just kind of right back into a key technical level, which is that 128. Reclaim back above that 128. We can see continuation, rejection. We can see this flip back towards the downside. Earnings is tonight, so we don't really have to worry about trading Palantir here today. We'll just wait for the earnings that we have after close. MU. This one rejected here on Friday, along with a lot of these other semiconductors. You can see pretty strong rejection. So we bounced nicely only on Friday to have a pretty strong rejection. As you can see, candle opened up well above the range, ended up having a pop, and then a close right in between its previous candles range, and you can see how big of a candle that we had on Friday. So a lot of the semiconductors are still maintaining lower highs, and most likely just going to come right back down in towards that 750. Key technical levels that we have marked out is our 820, and then room all the way back down in towards that 760. So moving forward, we just want to mark this out. If you want to see some upside, the reclaim back above 820 is in play. A rejection here off 820, room back down in towards that 740 here on the higher time frames on something like MU. SNDK has earnings this week. Let's keep an eye on that previous day lows. Rejection, continuation right back down in towards that 1100. Of course, a reclaim. We can see room back up in towards that 1250 and potentially 1300. We do have earnings on Wednesday. INTC, key levels that we have marked out. Mark out that previous day lows. That's going to be key moving forward. You can see we came up on Friday, rejection here off that 98. Moving forward, previous day lows is going to be key. Rejection all the way down in towards that 84. A reclaim potentially. You can see a little bit of a push back up in towards our 98. A lot of the semis, as I mentioned, have been a lot weaker as of recent. You can see for INTC, we're actually coming back up in towards our key technical areas. This is where we bounced from originally, and I can see we're actually retesting this for a move back down in towards 80 and below here on INTC. WDC has earnings as well. This one bounced nicely, and now we're just rejecting off the top of the range. Keep an eye out for WDC to most likely just consolidate until earnings. That's going to be on Wednesday. As for SK Hynix, this one got back underneath that IPO low. So key technical levels on this one is just going to be that 152. Other names, right? MBIS, these ones kind of bounce off that previous all-time highs. Let's see if we can make a higher low on the daily chart for a move back up in towards that not all-time highs, but a reversal back up in towards 220 here. MRVL, a lot of these tickers, as you can see, for at least for the semis wise, a little bit weaker as of recent. A lot of the names that are showing strength within the past month have been the Mag 7 names. So the renewed strength here on some of the Mag 7 and some tech names, right? Google, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, a lot of these ones have been bouncing nicely as of recent. So we're going to focus more on these names compared to names like, of course, the semis. So with that being said, let's go over the game plan here coming into market open. At least for today, what we're going to keep an eye out for is just going to be that previous day highs. Above our previous day highs, we can see continuation. The rejection, we can expect it to consolidate a little bit more. As for the SPY, you can see this one is leading the markets higher. Let's keep an eye on SPY, hold above our previous day highs coming to market open. If we reject, then we can see a flip right back towards the downside. SMH, the key technical levels that we have marked out is our 536. The rejection, we can see room back towards the lows, a reclaim back above. We can see a move back up and towards that 548 and above. As for the main watches coming to market open here, I'm going to keep an eye out on Tesla here today. Key level that we have marked out 315. AMD has earnings. We'll keep an eye on an AMD potential pop and fade before earnings. Potentially, we can keep an eye on the Monday's expirations today. As for Nvidia, we'll keep an eye on this 198 for potential flip back towards the highs. Other names that I'm interested in, Google above our previous day highs for a flip back towards the upside. Microsoft, of course, is bullish here as well. So I like Microsoft, Google, Meta above our previous day highs, Amazon here as well above our previous day highs. So all these Mag 7 names look good for continuation. As for the rest of the tickers, going to be a little bit more patient on, open and trading both sides on names like Tesla, AMD, and Nvidia. And then, of course, the Mag 7 names, the rest of the ones are fairly bullish. As for the rest of the tickers, like the semiconductors, we do have SNDK earnings on Wednesday. The memory names, I'm going to be a little bit more patient on SNDK. SNDK has earnings along with WDC. So open and playing these names both sides. So INTC, similar thesis, open and playing a pop and fade, or if it reclaim with strength, we can see that mean reversion back towards the upside. So that's what we have for some of the tech names, along with the rest of the names coming into market open here. Which prop firms for futures would you recommend? I'm planning to get into your prop firms wise. There's a lot of good prop firms out there as long as they pay out. I can't recommend one specific prop firm in itself. There's a lot of them online. At least nowadays, they always keep changing. Back in the day, Apex was good, but then I heard some bad things about Apex. Like you have like Top Step, my Forex fund, not my Forex funds. They all sound the same. Like Lucid. There's Alpha. This one recently dropped. So there's a lot of ones that they keep switching. So make sure to do your due diligence. As long as they're paying out, those are the ones that you should be going for. Yeah, with that being said, I am going to call it a day here. Hopefully you guys did enjoy that. I am back at my home office, so I'll be putting out a lot more content on my second channel. I'll try and do daily uploads on that one. So yeah, with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you did, appreciate if you guys drop a like and sub. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below. That being said, we'll see you guys all tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone. Peace.